So we find ourselves in a moment where there's a lot of questions and not many answers. And yet we know that the church has been through this before. We can have confidence that we can engage this moment really, really well. And so that starts by asking basic questions. And in the form of practices or these next steps that you're going to hear, we're going to learn together about what does it look like for us to ask the right questions. And that first question is pretty obvious. It's the question of, where are we? It's a context question. If we don't know where we are and we can't define reality, we will never know how to lead forward, how to move forward. And so join me as we listen to Greg walk us through how to understand better not only the context of this moment, but what's led to the moment we find ourselves in.
The first is this: where are we? Where are we? Now, this is a question about context. It's a question about the time and place in which we find ourselves, a question about context. And it's so important that we learn to answer this question about context maturely, and that we not simply hide behind vague generalizations about culture, but that we really understand the intellectual sources and the institutional structures and the individual experiences that are making our age ours. And yet it is not easy to understand our age, is it? Because if you listen to philosophers or theologians or social scientists or political theorists or economists, whoever, you're going to actually see that everybody is struggling to understand this age. And they're actually offering contradictory accounts of this age. And that is a very important and revealing fact. Because what it reveals is that the essential character of our age is that it is an age of contradiction. That it is an age of contradiction. This is where we are, in a contradictory age. And let me tell you what I mean, and this is important. Our age grew out of a prior age, as all ages do, and it was the age of the Enlightenment. And the architects of the Enlightenment dreamed of this time when human beings would be free, right? We would be free from all the intellectual and economic and technological orders imposed upon us by kings and by priests. And we would be free to actually fashion a new world in which we would seek our own reasonable truths, in which we would pursue our own technological dreams, our own economic fullness, our own self-governance in our lives and our societies. This is the dream. And there were elements of beauty in this dream, and some of them have come to be, and it's important that the church recognize this. The emphasis on reason brought education to people who had never had access to it before. And the emphasis on production led to the creation of unimaginable wealth for human beings. Advances in technology brought real agency to people who had been without agency. And the energy of self-governance opened up the possibility for individuals and for societies that had never been seen. We have to see that part of the light of this dream was real. And yet there were shadows that these early modernist architects did not see. Because the same Western culture that brought education to the world also brought forth some of the most destructive ideologies in the history of the world. And the same productivity that brought unprecedented wealth to the world also created unprecedented economic inequality. The same technologies that promised emancipation have been used to enslave and to destroy millions of people. And the same self-governance that offered opportunity to us, to individuals and communities, has created some of the most self-absorbed societies in the history of the world. And so, yeah, the light was real, but the shadows were real too. And if you were white and you were male for several centuries, the light of that early vision seemed so brilliant that the shadows were largely invisible. But over time, the shadows became visible. In our own time, the light and the shadows are bound inexorably together, each struggling for mastery. Neither one of these is able to prevail. And it looks like this. Yes, we are freed from intellectual oppression, but only with the key of cynicism. Yeah, we're free to create wealth, but we seem condemned as a society only to spend it on the things that destroy us. Yeah, we're free to build any technology that we could dream, only to spend our nights in restless sleep over the nightmare of what we've created. See, this is the essence of our contradictory age. It's a profound struggle between an enlightened, rationalized, utopian dream and an ideological, technocratic nightmare. And most of us have the temptation to resolve this contradiction, to only see the progress and only see the light. And Christian churches talk about as if this were the case. And others are resolved only to see the darkness, to only see the negative parts of our society. And there are lots of Christian churches that do that as well. But we have to resist this temptation, because the truth of the matter is that we live in a contradictory age, this dappled age in which light and shadow mingle tortuously together. And we have to understand that if we're going to truly be present in this age.